Everybody ready? Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a moment of silence. Please keep our former alderman in your prayers for a recovery, Bill Christie. Thank you. I have one announcement here, a nice one. There was a lady, a young girl, when she was playing soccer out at Owen High School. Her name is Mia McMurray. She played on the Owen soccer team and was a deaf player. She has gone on and joined the American soccer team for the deaf. They were in Malaysia for the 4th annual deaf soccer tournament, women's soccer tournament, and they won. The Valley Echo was the one that went ahead and published this. Appreciate you putting that out there. So I think that's pretty cool that we have one of our folks from Black Mountain on a world championship team. Several proclamations here. Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence is a serious crime that violates an individual's security and humanity due to the systematic use of emotional, psychological, physical, sexual, and economic control. And whereas an average of 24 people per minute experience rape, physical violence, or stalking by intimate partner in the United States, more than 12 million over the course of a year. Whereas the problem of domestic violence is not contained to any specific groups of people, but can happen to anyone, regardless of race or ethnic identity, sexual orientation, education, socioeconomic status, gender, or religious beliefs. And these problems are sustained by societal indifference. And whereas intersecting layers of vulnerability due to race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, age, religion, spirituality, citizenship status, and spoken language in the context of American society makes it easier for abusers to isolate, control, and create and sustain power over survivors with marginalized identities. Whereas children who grow up in witnessing domestic violence in their homes are deeply impacted, are more likely to have trouble in school, more likely to perpetuate and be victimized by violence themselves, and more likely to experience long-term mental and physical health challenges. Whereas survivors should have to find compassion and comfort, healing they need, and abusers should be held accountable for their violent behavior. Whereas powerful partnerships exist locally between many nonprofit and government organizations that are committed to supporting survivors in their journey towards safety and healing. It is the survivors, whereas it is survivors of abuse who have been at the forefront of efforts to bring peace and equality to the home. Whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month is an opportunity to stand with survivors to celebrate the progress we have made in combating these crimes and to recommit to preventing domestic violence in our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed on the behalf of all members of the Black Mountain Town Council and residents of the town of Black Mountain that the month of October 23rd be proclaimed Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we urge our residents to make a commitment to stop domestic violence by speaking out against it and learning more about the resources available to survivors and their families. And let me just back up because I forgot to read the ethics statement. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the Council, all council members have a duty to conduct the affairs of the governing board in an open and public manner, free of conflicts of interest. Is there any item on the agenda, the outcome of which will have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact for any council member, his or her family, or close business associates?
No.
Does any council member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before the council today?
No.
There being none, all board members have a duty and an obligation to vote. The second proclamation is the proclamation for Indigenous Peoples Day. And whereas the town of Black Mountain recognizes that indigenous people have lived upon the land since time immemorial and values the progress of our society is accomplished through the contributions of indigenous people's culture. And whereas natives and non-natives have shared this community for hundreds of years, and the indigenous people have provided friendship and guidance and protection. And whereas the idea of Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 by a delegation of native nations to the United Nations, sponsored International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Peoples in Americas. Whereas the town of Black Mountain wishes to recognize natives with a day to celebrate and honor indigenous people to better reflect the experiences of the indigenous people and to hold and esteem their roots, history, and culture, whereas the town of Black Mountain wishes to preserve and promote the history and culture of all indigenous. Now, therefore, as the mayor of Black Mountain, I do declare the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day in the town of Black Mountain, encourage and continued recognition, appreciation, and celebration of our goodwill and friendship with our local indigenous people. I strongly encourage community members, schools, businesses, public and private organizations, and other community partners to join communities across America in recognizing and promoting the well-being and understanding the contributions of our indigenous communities, proclaimed this 9th day of October 23rd. I also would like to just make a quick statement that I think that all of us that are Christians have an obligation to ask the indigenous people for a sincere forgiveness of the ill justices that was done to these peoples for over hundreds of years under the guise that they were inhuman beings. Proclamation for Fire Prevention Week. Whereas the town of Black Mountain is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our town, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally in homes or locations where people are at great risk from fire, whereas home fires have killed more than 2,800 people in the United States in 21, and according to the National Fire Protection Association, fire departments have responded to 338,000 home fires, whereas cooking is the leading cause of home fires in the U.S., and fire departments responded to more than 166,400 annually between 2016 and 20. 2 of every home fires start in the kitchen, with 31% resulting from unattended cooking. And whereas more than half of reported non-fatal home fire injuries occurred when the victims tried to fight the fire themselves, whereas children under 5 are of a higher risk of non-fire burns associated with cooking and then being burned in the cooking fire. Whereas Black Mountain residents should turn pot handles towards the back of the stove, always keep a lid nearby when cooking, keep a 3-foot kid-free zone around the stove, oven, and other things that could get hot. Watch what they heat and set a timer to remind them that they're cooking. Residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. Whereas working alarms cut the risk of dying in a reported home fires almost in half, and whereas Black Mountain firefighters are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home injuries through the prevention and protection actions, education. And whereas Black Mountain residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2023 fire prediction theme, cooking safety starts with you, pay attention to your fire prevention, effectively serves to remind us to stay alert and caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. I, therefore, C. Michael Sobel, Mayor of the town of Black Mountain, do proclaim October 8th through the 14th as Fire Prevention Week throughout the town, and urge all people of Black Mountain to check their kitchens for fire hazards and use safety cooking practices during Fire Prevention Week, and to support the many public activities and efforts of Black Mountain Fire Department. The last proclamation is for Dan Hawatchin, who was born in 1950 and passed away this year. I just want to read a little background. Background for Dan Hawatchin proclamation. In 1992, Dan saw and was taken with a headline in the National Enquirer that read, "Bigfoot sighted in Black Mountain," when he drew and and Tekla to our community. Coming across an empty metal building where Dobra Tea is now, Tekla said, "We could not believe how easy people were to work with here." So in 1993, that became our first downtown gallery. In the year 2000, they moved to their studio to a more spacious location at 203 Pagettown, which they named Black Mountain Iron Works. For over 2 decades, Dan and Tekla went ahead and shared their skills and passions for the metal artwork with children, fellow artists, community. Dan passed away earlier this year, but the sculptures he created, which are peppered throughout the town, parks, and green spaces, will serve as a reminder of his dedication to make the community he loved a better place. Whereas, therefore, art is a vital part of our community's heritage, which exemplifies the creative spirit at the heart of Black Mountain. Art demonstrates how our achievements go hand in hand with our progress as a community. Whereas the town of Black Mountain values and supports local artists and is always appreciative of those who serve for the betterment of the community. Whereas over the last 30 years, Dan and his wife and fellow artist, Teresa Tekla, has demonstrated their ability to connect with the community through passion for beauty and artistic talents. And whereas through education and hands-on demonstration, Dan and Teresa engage future generations of metal workers by teaching children the art of metalworking. And whereas during his life, Dan contributed much ironwork and art sculptures throughout our public spaces, as such as the large rocking chairs, iron fencing, and colorful sculpture, family sculpture at Town Square, and the beautiful Watch and Walk on Cherry Street, and an iron artwork adorning the many planters in town. And whereas we are forever grateful for the gifts to the town and extend our deepest sympathy and condolences to Teresa and to all who knew and loved him. Therefore, I must see Michael Sobel and the town council members, on behalf of the citizens of Black Mountain, wish to express their deep appreciation and many thanks to Dan Hawatchin for his artistic contributions, which will forever connect him to the community he loved and who loved him, proclaimed this 9th day of October 2023. All right. Do we have any citizen comments? Thank you. Larry Perlman.
Larry Perlman, 203 North Park Lane. Mayor, Town Council members, thank you for this opportunity. I think some of you, in any case, are aware of the duplex being built on North Park Lane. And for many months, there's been a temporary fence along North Park Lane blocking that property. And it's built in the town right-of-way along the edge of the road. The fence is supposed to come down when the builder is finished putting in his storm drainage system, and he's doing that now. He's already moved several boulders onto the property, which I think his intention is when the temporary fence comes down, he's going to put those boulders right in the town right away so that nobody on that street can park there, even though people who have been living on that street for decades had been parking there all those years. There's some friction between the builder and some people on the street, and I think he doesn't want people to park there. I see there are provisions to prevent that type of action in the new UDO, but that will not go into effect before this is built. It's a narrow street. The temporary fence has made it difficult already for sanitation trucks, for mail trucks, as well as delivery trucks to safely navigate the street. We haven't had to have a fire truck come down, but I think it would also make that difficult. And I think the boulders are going to have a similar effect. So I'd like to ask this council and the town manager, Josh and I have already discussed this to some degree, to just consider, is there anything that can be done under the current rules and laws and stuff, preventing those boulders from being put in the town right of way? I know citizen comments don't normally get response in town meetings, so I'll follow up with an email just asking for suggestions. And if I have a little time left, I'd like to put in a word for Rick Early to be chosen tonight to replace Bill Christie. In the 6 years that I've lived in Black Mountain, I have not met a single individual who cares as much about this town where he grew up any more than Mr. Early. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's the end of citizen comment. I would like to go ahead and say that Is that the sign we were talking about, Josh, on the board over there?
That is a sign.
The door? Yeah. So the people, whenever they come in, they can see that sign to sign up. I would like to go ahead and just mention to people that, all you have to do is simply go to the table and sign up before the meeting, so that hopefully we'll have more people that want to speak at the meetings. All right, Josh. Number 4.
Welcome up Mary Robert with Land and Sky Regional Council. I don't know that Jake is here. I don't see him. So Mary's going to lead us through our Terry Estate Stormwater Control Project that is currently underway across on our Public Works. Thank you, Mary.
Good evening, everyone. Great to see you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Let me make sure that works. Yep, sounds like it. Okay, wonderful. All right, so apologies for the confusion. I call it the Public Works Stormwater Project, but it's on your agenda as the Terry Estate Drive Stormwater Project. They are one and the same. And I should also mention that Jake is very sorry that he could not be here. He was called away unexpectedly this weekend. He did get back late last night, but was not able to join us. So I will be speaking to the design information. If there's any detailed questions, I know we can pass those on to Jake. Just a quick overview of the project. The funding source is DEQ's 319 program. That's just one of these. They're really federal funds through EPA. Those are programs under EPA's Clean Water Act. And this is the second 319 project that I've been involved with in Black Mountain. The total amount of the project is $142,995. That is because the town of Black Mountain is putting in a little more match for the sidewalk that was not originally planned for the project. That came about through collaboration with staff. So an additional $15,000 was added to the town's match. Otherwise, it would have been a 60-40 split, 60 grant, 40 town, and then a little bit more has been put in for the sidewalk. The project got started in 2022 and should be wrapping up by the end of December. The main thing about the project, and I'll talk about that in more detail, is the bioretention in the public parking lot. Also with pollinator islands, that came again through working with staff, so we've made some adjustments to the original design in collaboration with both Jessica and Philip, and I think those improvements have been really wonderful. There's also a rain garden behind the building that is capturing all of the roof runoff from that very large building. So there's pretty bad erosion along the banks there, but on both sides of the river. Unfortunately, we don't control the Holiday Inn side, but at least on the public works side, that capturing that roof runoff will be a really good step in reducing some of those erosive forces that are causing erosion. And the last part of the project is the Upper Swannanoa River Watershed Management Plan update, and I'll speak a little more to that in a moment. In terms of status, both the parking lot and the rain garden behind Public Works are under construction. I just drove by there. I knew from their invoice it was about 80%, but I saw it with my own eyes. The sidewalks poured and completed. All of the pavement demolition's been done, and the things have been excavated. Rocks have been put in under drains. They are going to be resealing and painting the parking lot next week. And we'll also be done with the rain garden, and then they'll start planting. So the plantings are going to take a little bit longer. Some of that's just based on the availability of the plants, but by and large, all of the mess will be cleaned up by next week, and then the plants will come. So just to orient you, obviously you probably know where Terry Estate Drive is, but kind of big picture, back when we did the Upper Swannanoa River Watershed Plan, that started in 2014, was completed in 2016. All those little black dots with numbers in them were projects that were identified. And at the time, there's 3 projects with a green circle around them. Those were all identified there at formerly Foam and Fabric. So that was not a town-owned building, and they weren't ranked as high because they were not on public property. Now they are, which is really exciting. So we could go after funding to get those things implemented. That is right adjacent to the Swannanoa River, which is an impaired waterway, meaning it doesn't meet, specific criteria for fishing and swimming, for example. And it's mainly impaired from stormwater runoff. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to reduce the amount of runoff. It is a critical reach for a federally endangered mussel species as well. And Luke Etchison has been doing some mussel reintroductions further down the river around Warren Wilson's campus. He was very excited about this project and gave us a letter of support when we applied for the funding. So now to the project itself. If you're familiar, and there is a before and after photo in a moment, that was just a great expanse of impervious surface, or basically hard surface. Now there will be a stormwater wetland to the right and a bioretention system to the left, and that's largely a difference in plantings. The wetland is intended to hold a little more water and remain a little more wet. It will not pond, though. That water will drain. It has an under drain and a storage medium. Both of those really help to reduce the water temperature. That's another issue for water quality is really thermal pollution, as well as absorbing pollutants. And I have to say, this is not in my presentation, but Black Mountain has been really at the forefront of implementing green infrastructure in our region, ahead of Asheville, ahead of Hendersonville, which are two of kind of the communities that I often look to for doing really great projects. But Black Mountain has, I'd say, definitely per capita, but I'd say just hands down, more of these types of green infrastructure projects, we call them, versus gray infrastructure, right? Where you just either hold it in a concrete basin and send it straight out to the river. Black Mountain has really invested in this green infrastructure, which really does more. It cleans the water, it reduces the temperature, it takes out pollutants, and it takes out sediment using these forms of stormwater management. So I'm very excited, and I'm just excited that Black Mountain has been able to make these investments over a long period of time. So you'll see those pollinator islands in that light green hatching. The sidewalk is already poured. There's now one entry and one exit point for the project. And shoot, I left my phone over there. I'm going to start the timer. I'm going to hurry up. There will be a picnic table out here too, for folks from the Public Works, and also anyone who just needs a break before they head into town to be able to use. So it's a big difference. See that in a minute. The rain garden behind Public Works, that's the Public Works building up in the upper left corner. The roof drain goes to the rain garden and will capture all of that stormwater runoff that is hitting the roof before entering the river there. So yeah, that's also exciting. So before...
Could you back up just a second?
Yes, sir.
You've got the green now, and then to the right of it looks like, cobblestone.
Yes.
Is that what that is cobblestone?
Yes, that is stonework. That is correct. Yeah, that is
and
stonework.
then it drains
and
into...
Then drains out from there. Yeah.
Okay.
That is correct. Good eye. So before, on the left, a very large expanse of asphalt. We're treating about 1 acre impervious surface between the parking lot and the roof. That's a lot of water, honestly. I didn't do the math. I should have to translate that to gallons. But you'll see on the right some of the construction pictures. This upper, I don't have a pointer, or maybe I do, but I can't figure it out that quickly. Just where they've excavated for the bioretention, and then the sidewalk is shown here being poured. Thank you. Yes, that's one of the bioretention on the left-hand side. So this is all going to be planted, and it's all going to look a lot better. And I did drive by, and it's already looking good, but it'll look great once the plants go in. So that's all to that. Ben with Asheville Drainage, who I should have mentioned as the other project partner to Wildlands Engineering. Wildlands did all of the design work. They're doing the construction management. Asheville Drainage is actually doing the building. They've been really great to work with. I think they're being very efficient, and I haven't heard any complaints from Jamie, so that's good. The other part of this project is updating this watershed plan. This is the guide that we're using to implement projects. Obviously, the town now also is working on an updated stormwater master plan. I imagine there are going to be some new priorities after that process, and I know that's on the agenda tonight to talk about that contract award. I want to incorporate that into the watershed plan, but the watershed plan is what enables us to keep going after this funding. If we didn't have a watershed plan, they wouldn't give us this money. So that is a prerequisite for the state funding. So it is important, and it is important to update. Right now, it is in a paper format that we're all familiar with, a PDF. We love those documents that sit on shelves. What I'm going to be doing is moving that into the statewide interactive watershed action plan system. I already have the kind of outline set up for it. I just have to get with Cam McNutt with DEQ and finish populating it. But this way, when projects are implemented, they're going to show up on the map. We'll have a kind of a dynamic, a dynamic representation of what's going on with the plan. And it can be updated over time. So this just on the left shows the kind of broad topics, what are the water quality issues, who's involved, what are goals, strategies, and objectives. A lot of this will come from the existing plan. There's also this element of Stream Watch that can be incorporated where citizens are encouraged to contribute their observations on the ground. But a big part of this will just be documenting all the projects that we've already done and continuing to add projects to this over time so that we can see kind of how the watershed plan is progressing. So that's the last piece of this that I'm working on. And I know I've run long, so I have a couple of slides that just show some of our previous work. Our public ed and education and outreach, the rain garden on the right, the rain garden sign. That rain garden is at the Town of Black Mountain Library. There's a before and after photo. I visited that pretty recently and it's looking good. No mow signs for Tomahawk Branch where we've done a stream restoration, as well as plants. I was able to pay for the plants for this bioretention project that Riverlink did in conjunction with Andrew Bick, I believe. Yeah, was the engineer on that. And that was a news article about it. So, there's other things happening. These are also kind of elements of the watershed plan process as well, and things that we've been able to support. And finally, my name and email address and phone number for follow-up questions, and just some pictures from our last 319 project, which wrapped up in 2019. The rain garden at the library was one of those, and then there's some more rain gardens here at the golf course, and then the stream restoration, which I do understand has gotten a bit overgrown. It sounds like we need to do a little work out there, but that's what it looked like when it was done. It looked beautiful. So, like I said, this is part of an ongoing effort, that we've been chipping away at over a long period of time. And I do know that y'all have gotten more funding to do some really great master planning work, so I'm excited to see that move forward.
Thank you. A question on going back where you,
Yes.
on the rain garden right there.
Yes.
What was the participation on that?
So for the
Funding.
planting, okay.
For the funding of that,
So
of that project?
I included this because we paid for the plants for this project, but the town funded this project, as far as I know, out of your stormwater utility. So this was not grant funded. There are some from the 319 project. There's a big pavilion there. Like we're looking at, there's a parking area here. This big bioretention is right in front of it. And then kind of, if you turned that way, you'll see the pavilion, and there's a lot of bioretention that we did over on the other side of that as part of the previous 319 grant. But this was town funded. With the exception of the plants that we purchased as part of another grant that I have.
You got that figure, Josh?
No, off the top of my head.
If you'd get that to me, please.
Yeah.
Thanks. And then also too, I see on the other, as you go to the next slide,
Yes.
you have where it says the no-mow zone.
Yes.
And then that is just for portions. That's not everything that you've done.
Right. So the Tomahawk Branch stream restoration, we also created these no-mow zones to be placed in, a few areas to encourage public works or golf course maintenance not to mow down the entire riparian restoration that was done.
Okay.
So that's just...
Yeah, because I was just kind of wondering on that, because when I was mayor before, that was the first grant that was given. That was in my last fall here.
Yeah.
And I don't recall seeing anything in the grant that called for that.
Well, it actually had an education component in the grant. Which I found almost at the end of the grant. I did not write that grant. I inherited that grant, and I was like, oh my gosh, we need a sign. I made a sign. I got a sign made. And some education around repair and restoration. Those were actually, it wasn't specified how that education take place. So we chose to do some no-mow signs to encourage people.
Because we had an engineer in here last fall that, agreed that it could be cut.
I'm sure it
not,
can be.
Not like a
right.
green or not, down, 2 to 3 inches, but, that at least it could be cut.
Managed, yes. It can be managed, yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what are those little areas and how much of that Tomahawk branch restoration
Yeah.
would be in your category of where you say no mow?
Well, along the
Is that
golf
10%?
course,
Is that-
I mean, I don't know the linear feet of the
Be
golf.
every bit of it that we redid.
Right, yeah, yeah, but I don't have the linear feet in my mind.
Okay.
I don't, sorry, not off the top of my head.
But even then, as you just said, that could be gone in there, and especially in the wintertime, level down those trees that are the growing in there.
Yes, there's some management can be done, and I've been working on a repairing area management plan for Hendersonville and talking with Public Works there and talking about at least using machine to top it. So not going, obviously not too far so that the plants don't grow back, but yes, to keep some of that height down.
Yeah, because most of the advantage of having the plants in there is not from shafts.
Right.
To keep it, it's the roots.
the root system,
It's
that's
the root
correct.
systems in there, and so
That's
therefore
correct.
it can be maintained and kept at a lower level.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's just, Renee with Riverlink lamented that the day before the funders were coming to look at a river cane restoration that they had done in Asheville, someone from the city came and mowed the entire thing to the ground the day before that, the visit. So yes, you can manage it, but there's a danger if you're not communicating about this, that it gets completely obliterated. And so that's just trying to balance that. But certainly, and especially on a golf course, this is probably definitely a longer conversation that Ann and I have actually started, that there is an expectation of things being very neatly trimmed, and that's understandable. It is a golf course. So trying to kind of balance the two different aesthetics, I think, is important. And doing some targeted maintenance makes a lot of sense.
It does, because there's a lot of briars in there and people just can't, they hit the
Right.
balls in there, they can't even get
Yeah,
into
they
it.
can't get out. Yeah, that's
They
worse
can't
than a
even go
sand
in.
trap, right?
Exactly.
No, you're absolutely
Okay.
correct. Yes.
Anybody else got any questions?
No, not a question, but Mary, I'll just say that you made my heart sing a little bit when you said that Black Mountain was leading the way in
Absolutely.
green infrastructure projects and even comparing us to much bigger municipalities. And
I think it's,
I hope the community heard that loud and clear.
I'd say it's very
Fran,
impressive.
I didn't notice you writing at that moment. It's all.
Yeah. No, y'all have really been at the leading edge of this in our region, so,
Thanks to our staff in large part, I would say.
yeah, definitely. They've been great to work with.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mary, appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks for letting us continue to do cool work.
Okay, we're going to the consent agenda.
Consent agenda will be quite a few items this evening. 5A will be A through G, A being adoption of minutes, 5B being a resolution to accept grant funding from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality and to approve an agreement for professional engineering services for the Black Mountain Stormwater Infrastructure Planning Project. This was ARP money. C is Lake Tomahawk Dam Repair Construction Contract Award. D is a call for public hearing for a text amendment to our fee schedule, will be next month. E, a resolution to accept stream flow rehabilitation program grant funding in the amount of $71,816. 5F, a monthly property tax collection report for July and August, county. And G will be approval of the 2023 audit contract and an amendment to the 2022 audit contract
Josh, just a little clarification on B, that ARP money was not our.
No, this money was a large grant we went after, we ended up getting it. It was 5.4 million, the 400,000 is for more of analysis of our existing system, where the issues are, where they lie, and the 5 million is actually for construction projects, which will come later.
And that 400,000 was designated for this project.
That's correct, Councilmember Hay.
Thank you.
So, let me get the, so the 71's coming out of the 400?
No, sir, it's completely separate projects. On item B, the firm that we are suggesting that we go with is W.K. Dixon. But the $71,816 is a completely different pot of money than the 400,000.
I had a brief question about some of the minutes. Is it standard to mark council members that are absent? I just see, it's not clear. On one we have, it's one marked absent, and on others we just don't have anyone, if they're not listed. Does that need to be?
Are they listed as absent or not absent? This is not listed
So
at
on
all.
September 7th, I believe Bill Christie was absent that meeting and he's not listed as absent or present. On September 11th, he's listed as absent. And then the special call, it just says who was there, so, it's a small detail.
You can
I
make
was
a motion to
curious.
include him being absent in the first one if you want, or just an amendment of that.
Sure, I think for clarity of, the record, that would be helpful.
On the audit, you say the audit will start shortly and it will be completed by,
It has to be done later by the end of December, otherwise we're late.
And we're on track to do that in time?
I have no reason to believe that we won't get it on time this year.
Great.
you've got in here the monthly property tax collector report, to help give Tammy an idea of where we are. Is there any way we can go ahead, and you and I spoke about this last week, to go ahead and see where we are with the sales tax?
And I respond,
Funding.
yes, happy to have that on the next agenda.
Okay. Because that'll give the board members some idea, instead of waiting till agenda, until we do the budget.
That's correct. Happy to do that next month.
Because unfortunately, from what TDA said, we're down 11%. So TDA funded them, which would probably reflect,
It may.
a short, at least not an increase in the sales tax that we received at last time.
That's right.
Josh, just for clarification for me, on the resolution to accept the stream flow, that 71,000,
Yes,
when I read through that, it did specifically state Swananoa River.
so that's what it is, Swan River.
Yes, okay.
So then that means that's at the back of Billy Wells's whatever rents. Because that's technically that's the Swananoa River, that's where it
Yeah,
begins.
I think that part has been looked at for this.
So none of this money can be used up Flat Creek then?
It's not.
No, it specifically says Swananoa River.
Okay.
We had to give specific locations even
Yeah.
within the
Yeah.
This money seems to be continuing to be available, so maybe the next time we go after Flat Creek, is that a possibility?
They did make an allocation in the state budget of 20 million non-reoccurring dollars. They have not announced eligibility. So if we are eligible in this next round, we will move Flat Creek in that request.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Sorry. Question on that, because if we went right behind, is there anywhere along this stream bank rehabilitation program that we could do remediation?
No.
It's just stream bank work. It's just
So-
removing things out of the stream.
Okay. All right, that's my questions. Anybody else got anything? All right. I hear a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, to be specific on the firm that you choose
For B.
for B,
And for C.
just for the record.
And for C, and
Was that W.K. Dixon?
for B, yes.
I move that town council approve the resolution to accept funding from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality in the amount of $400,000, and the resolution to approve the agreement with W.K. Dixon to provide professional engineering services for the Mountain Stormwater Infrastructure Planning Project, SRP-SW-ARP 0055 as presented.
C is Bakers. C is Bakers.
Yeah,
C is
Bakers, E-R-S.
Baker's Construction.
Bakers Construction.
So you're including the others?
I'll go ahead and do
Oh,
that.
go-
I also move that the town council approve the resolution to select Bakers as the lowest responsible bidder and to enter into an agreement to provide construction repair services for the Lake Tomahawk Dam project as presented.
Do you want to go ahead and include the rest of those? Or do you want to just vote on those two separately?
It's up to you.
I think you can vote, after you've made those motions, I think you ought to vote on all that together.
The minutes as
Just
adopted.
make a,
Well, he's done B and C, and I think you would then have to do a separate motion for the remaining items on the consent agenda, but
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept A, B, and C on the consent agenda?
to
Well,
approve,
he's-
to approve
he's
B and
To
C.
approve it.
So he's already done a motion
Somebody's got
to
it.
adopt B and C with the
Yeah.
specificity as to the contractor, so since we've gone that
Yes.
direction, why don't we get a
Okay.
second and then just vote on B and C?
Well, we don't have a second here, so we'll just go ahead and put on, is there any discussion?
All right,
Okay,
yeah, sounds good.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Opposed? Okay, now, we need to get a motion for D, E, F, and G,
And A,
And A.
and A. Okay, I thought you
A
put
as
that in.
amended.
As amended.
I'll make a motion to adopt, or to approve the minutes as amended,
And D.
and read D.
I don't think you have to read it.
No. And a motion to, are we moving to approve D, E, F, and G?
I think you did-
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So A, D, E, F, and G is what you're
Make a
proposing.
motion to approve the minutes as presented and amended, and a motion to approve, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. The motion to call public hearing to amend the free schedule to be held on Monday, November 13th, 2023 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible in the boardroom, Town Hall, 160 Midland Avenue. E, resolution to make a motion to approve the resolution R-23-15, accepting the stream flow rehabilitation program STRAP grant awarded in the amount of $71,816. F, make a motion to approve the monthly tax collector report for July and August. And G, motion, I move that the town council approve the 2022 amendment and the 2023 contract to audit accounts.
All right, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, it passed unanimously. Doesn't appear we have any citizen comment, or do we? We do? No citizen comment. All right, we move to, there's no public hearings. So now we move to unfinished business.
Mr. Anderson. So what you have before you, you have some estimates for dugout repair, as requested by council, I think at our last meeting. We've got some, kind of nailed that down a little bit, gotten a little more refined on it. I will say the backstops are extremely expensive, so those we may need to wait a little bit longer. Those are about $35,000 a piece. And we're trying to get some more quotes from some different companies. We used to work with a company here locally, they were on their business. National Fence seems to be the one who has all the chain link fence around here, so that's who we're dealing with. But the other information is there for you as far as the concrete work and the roofs and the dugout work. So I guess really what I'm looking for would be some direction from council on, y'all would like us to go ahead and start approving this. It's gonna take, more than likely a budget amendment we'll need to bring back to you, because we did not budget for this.
So if we're able to remove the backstop fencing, or hold on the backstop fencing, we're looking at the dugouts, 8 dugouts, some of which it looks like we're doing in-house, and some of it we're contracting out. And then the netting, where we would go ahead and move forward with the netting.
If we do those, what's the total for that?
Do some math real fast.
Looks like about approximately 66,000 there.
Roughly, it should be around 60, 70 if we didn't do the backstops.
Did
Somewhere in that
backstops,
range.
backstop fencing and backstop netting, correct?
Well,
You're
well,
including both those to be deleted?
Not the
No, we
net.
would still do the netting. The netting is only around close to $5,000.
66,428.
66,428.
And we spoke earlier today about potentially for the 2 fields where the older kids play, extending that out a little bit.
10 more feet, yeah.
10,
So it would go from a 10 by 20, so the North Carolina, or the, not North Carolina, but just the general dimensions for a high school baseball field, the dugouts are 10 feet deep by 30 feet long. So we look at extending 1 and 2 by 30 feet, or by 10 feet, to make it 30 total.
and we currently don't have an estimate on that, right? Because
Not with that new information. I could probably do the math, look at the dimensions and figure it up, and I can get some new quotes on that. Probably have that by 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
Question I have on the fencing replacements there, because I've looked at that, and unless I'm missing there doesn't seem to be any really large holes or any safety issues with the fencing.
No, I mean, if you go down to Veterans Park and look at a lot of the fencing that's there, most of the issues, it's just warped and bent from years of either people hitting balls into them or, things of that nature, just general wear and tear, really.
So really, there's nothing, this is an appearance thing, is to what we're doing, as opposed to anything dealing with safety.
Some of it.
Yeah.
As
What
far as
about the idea
As
of-
far as the backstops is concerned, right?
well, some of the backstops go over as they should, right, for
Right.
footballs, and some are just 12-foot fences or whatever.
Well, so field 4 is the smallest field, it's a T-ball field, so you don't necessarily need a backstop there because they're just hitting off a tee and they're
Correct.
smaller children, but 3, the netting that we were looking at doing, and even the backstop quotes were for 1, 2, and 3, so the 3 largest fields. 1 and 2 being those back 2, and 3 and 4 being the front.
We had a few issues at the recent tournament around foul balls going into the crowd, right? And
Right.
at least one person had to go to the hospital, is that correct?
So that's
Not
what
sure
you're
the
talking
outcome, but I
about?
know there were a few injuries, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what you're looking at is what the netting is?
Yes, so the netting, we would attach the netting essentially about roughly halfway down first and third baseline. It would go up.
Okay.
And it would cover the sides where the backstops are. So there won't be anything above the backstop. The netting would be to capture the sides where the balls are coming down.
And that's what you're speaking about, what the injuries came from, was because of the balls going out in those areas.
I can't speak whether it went over the backstop or whether it went around, I'm not sure.
There was a couple of times where it went over the backstop.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, but this netting would
Would help.
address
And
both
it
those
would help.
issues.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
That's the reason why I think we brought it up, is because it is a safety issue.
Yeah, yeah. Now that I can understand about the netting. I'm trying to address the backstops themselves and the fact that we go in there and, repair them and even go in and getting, could paint them, not with just regular paint, but some kind of a plasticized paint. Because you see these green fences, and that's what this chain link is. It's been coated with the plastic and it would make it look a whole lot nicer. And certainly we could, if there's any major structural issues, we need to address them. But I mean, couldn't we do that and save a whole lot of money?
From a aesthetic standpoint, I don't see why we couldn't look into it and see what that would look like. The only real safety issues, in my opinion, with the fencing that's down there now is where, especially on the taller fences, there are two sections of fence applied to the poles.
Yes.
So where those meet, because of the age and the wear and tear, the fence kind of rolls out. So if a kid runs by or something, they could get snagged or something. Those are the only safety issues, in my opinion, at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying not address some of the
Right.
the chain link issues, but in the interest of trying just to make it look nicer and then also saving some money, if we put this plasticized paint on it, it would, we would address the issue of safety and we would also go ahead and make it look better.
I think if you go down and look at it closely, you can see that it's been patched together several times with ties and all kinds of issues where it has come apart, it has separated in different places. I'm not saying that we can't continue to patch it up, and I think that the priority, as staff is presenting, and I would certainly agree, are the dugouts and the netting over the backstops. But I would hate for us to invest too much into aesthetics of this fencing and not create something that will last for another 30 years. I imagine that's how old these backstops are now, at least.
So as I understand it, as Councilmember Page has mentioned, there's parts of this that are just held together with Ziploc, or what do you call those things?
Zip ties.
Zip ties.
Zip ties.
There are some band-aided aspects of the fencing down there. We are looking at the next round of PARTIF grants. The PARTIF application opens this month, so I've kind of started putting together some ideas for things to apply for Veterans Park. And so one of the things I would like to, depending on how far we go with this, one of the things I would like to put in our application is replacing all of the fencing. As just a kind of a complete overhaul down there. I mean, that park, I think, opened in the early 90s. I think some of the infrastructure that's there is the same now, so.
Well, I feel the same way about this that I felt about the Great Eagle, in that, or any town property. If we own town property and we're not maintaining it and letting it go downhill, shame on us. Now, I get it that part of it's an aesthetic question and part of it's safety. We're all in favor of safety for sure. But, I'm of the mind that if we're gonna fix something, let's fix it and get it nice.
I would be inclined to agree with Councilmember Hay that right now I think the priority, and I would be okay with the priority being the netting and the dugouts. But not forgetting that we do need to do something about those backstops.
I mean, I think a lot of the fencing needs to be replaced down there.
The grant that you mentioned, what's the timeline that would be coming around?
So I think that the application closes in like May of next year. So I'm not sure when announcements would be made or anything like that, but once we submit an application, we have to bring it to council because there is a match that goes along with that. So you would be made aware of all the things that we were looking at applying for.
Right, but probably optimistically, that's May 2024, they would award it by the end of that, or we wouldn't.
Maybe September,
Okay.
August, something like that.
The soonest we could touch it, if we got it, would
Right,
be
right.
that December or winter, in between seasons.
Correct.
So today, you're just looking for kind of direction as to how we would,
That's very good.
and then a budget amendment would come to us next month.
Yes, correct.
mean, timeline, I know we're getting into the cold season, I don't know if you pour concrete at certain times, like,
Well, as long as it's above 32, I think.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, fall baseball is almost over and spring starts in like late February, early March. So if we can get in there sometime, a lot of this is timeline as well. You gotta get the site clear and then the concrete first and then the fencing and then the cover. So the concrete would most likely be kind of that second step. If we just have a couple warm days, we could probably get it done.
Is that something that we'll be doing the concrete for? Is that Public Works?
No,
No. Just, in my head, I'm factoring in someone else's timeline and
Right.
jobs and, yeah.
the concrete quote you have in front of you is from the same vendor that's done a lot of the sidewalk work in town.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm inclined to move forward with the dugouts and the netting. I guess when we have the budget in a minute, you can discuss a little further the budget impact and what that really looks like.
So can I clarify, under budget impact, you're saying, where it says this includes dugout fencing replacement, installation of concrete pads, roof replacement, and holding back on backstop replacement.
That's right. It's basically
And
everything
including
but
backstop
the
netting. Okay.
yeah, everything but the backstop fencing replacement, which is the big item. Archie,
I am in total agreement with that. Yes.
I feel good with that.
So,
So the pleasure of the board is to make a motion.
I don't think you need a motion. You're just giving him direction.
Direction,
Then you
yeah.
come back with a budget amendment.
just come back with an amendment,
And then you'll give us a motion.
and we'll give
next
you a
month.
motion next month.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks.
And we'll bring that, that'll be on November.
Thank you, Josh.
Okay, thank you, Josh.
Next is the active mobility ordinance. Jessica, would you like to lead us through this? We've worked on this for a number of months. I've had a couple of conversations with Julie Likely here. And I think we're on the same page now, so I'll let Jessica present it to you.
So what you have in front of you is almost exactly what AMC sent into staff to put into the form of the ordinance. I only made two little tweaks just to make it kind of consistent with how we word our ordinances. So instead of, I think it maybe say give advice, we said give comment because that's consistent language. And Josh and I talked about it and we added a time frame to it that is also consistent with how other boards and commissions that have review privileges on ordinance, whether it be planners or whatever, before it moves along. So there is a period of 2 meetings to provide comment.
And this
So
is.
And where is that located on here?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Item B.
It's on your, it's on your second page over there.
Section 236B. Okay. The bolded aspects are the changes. Yeah.
Yes. So that item B, so that's the only revision that I made to that. And then the second, I think was in there before too, is G, and that is how they would bring things to you to ask if you would like them to take them up. As opposed to me putting it in a monthly report, you reading a monthly report, you letting me know, it going back to staff, it going to another monthly meeting, then coming directly to you.
It's my understanding that this commission does not necessarily meet every month. So the word choice is intentional here, no more than 2 meetings. So if they don't meet for 1 month, they skip the month of December, let's say for the holidays.
It is, but
That's-
if they had something to review, they would have business, so they would meet.
It would, I don't like the word trigger, but yeah, it would indicate it was time to meet.
That is right.
Okay, thank you.
Just like to ask Julie a question. Julie, are you in agreement with this?
I appreciate your thought, not.
Come on up to the table.
Josh and I met to discuss this, and yeah, this, the main questions we had would be, and I think this reflects pretty much what we had wanted, so, I guess, yeah, I'm fine with it. I guess what I would like to know is, and I can just talk with you, Josh, is what would the procedure be? And I know this is not something for the ordinances, but what would the procedure be for the commission knowing that there was something that we needed to look at? And it could be real simple, like shoot me or whoever's the chair an email, so we can just talk about that procedurally. But I think for the ordinance, it's fine, and I appreciate
I'm fine with that.
everybody's work on it.
I'm fine with that if you will.
Yeah, how does that typically work if y'all know if there is business to indicate that y'all need a meeting?
Well, that's really up to the chair, which right now is me, so, you know, if I got a notice from one town department that said we want you to look at something, that would be on the agenda for the meeting, so,
Okay.
all right? Thank you.
Thank you.
I was just saying, it's the same like with planning board, if we get an application, we're like, just heads up, we've got an application, we're gonna have a meeting, so it would be the same.
Okay. We just didn't want to get it back into the situation where, like the bike situation, where they didn't know about it.
I think we're on the right path.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely.
All right, do I hear a motion to accept the amendments, the ordinance 02311?
I move we approve ordinance 02311 as presented, amending the duties of the Active Mobility Commission.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Okay, next thing is new business, town council vacancy.
Down to y'all. These are your ballots. You're going to vote on one, and you're going to turn them into Jennifer. Jennifer will come around and get them. We'll read them out loud.
While we're doing that, can we have a brief description of this process when we have a vacancy on the council?
Sure.
How that works with this election cycles and
Sure.
applications?
So for this process, council decided they wanted to take letters of interest from citizens, so they did. Ended up getting 5 total letters, which you'll see in your packet. Council made the decision to do it this way a couple years ago, at least.
3 years ago.
3 years ago? Been that long now? 3 years ago. So what they do is these list of candidates. They're given the form with the candidate's name on them. They will check the candidate's name if they wish. We will tally them and read them out loud. This seat will be sitting as an elected member until, appointed member, I guess you will, until the next election. And then if they decide they want to run, they will need to run again, or whoever else is going to run for that seat. And that person will take that seat, whoever that may be, and be in that seat until the next election. And then it will run for a 4-year term. So this seat tonight you're appointing is only from now until essentially December of next year.
And then it will be a 2-year.
That will be a 2-year term, 2-year seat. After that, we'll be back on schedule and it'll be a 4-year seat.
To keep the balance.
That's correct. So we have staggered terms here, so you don't, which is a good thing for staff. I know places that have councils that change every 2 years. So the whole board changes. So here, it's 3 and 3 every 2 years. Mayor, 2 council members, and then 3 council.
So a year from this fall, there will be 4 members of the board which will be running,
That's correct.
or 4 seats that will be
4
open.
seats.
4 seats open.
4 seats will be right.
I was gonna say, let's get that right.
It'll be
No one's on the
separate-
hook tonight.
It'll be separate on the ballot. There'll be 3 seats that are for 4 years
And one seat
and
for
1
2.
seat that's for 2
2,
years.
correct.
And as far as tonight goes, you want to walk through that? How that's.
So tonight, you each, 4 of you have a ballot in front of you with everyone's name on it. I'll just read the names out loud for everybody so they'll know. Joe Scotto, Joseph Scotto, Rick Early, Chaz Fitzgerald, Ryan Stone, and Carl Bartlett are your 5 names who have put in interest forms. You have all 5 names listed on your paper. You're only voting for one. After you're done, Jennifer will come and get them, and we will read them out loud. Whoever takes it, takes it. Now, if there's a tie, we'll have to do it again. The mayor does not break a tie in this instance. It's the only instance we don't.
So one person has to get 3 votes.
That's correct.
And if they don't, then we re-vote again.
That's correct.
Okay. Got it.
And then we move to approve.
And then you move essentially to approve.
Meaning the plurality, if somebody got 2 votes, then one of the other, somebody got 1 vote, and 1 vote, the 2 votes wouldn't be enough.
That's right. So what you would do in that case would be take those out.
Sounds good. I'm perfectly fine. There's no, I don't think your charter tells you you have to do it a certain way, so this is perfectly fine.
All right.
Well, go ahead.
I'd like to say a few things real quick first thing. First of all, because I haven't had an opportunity to say this, I'd like to thank Councilmember Christie for serving. It was a real pleasure working with him over the last few years, and I always valued his feedback and his comments throughout the meetings. And when we appointed him a few years ago to fill Tim's seat, I remember feeling an overwhelming sense of pressure to, this isn't what we didn't run for this position to fill appointments, to fill vacancies on this board, and I so much prefer that knowing that each person who's serving was elected and not appointed, but that is also our role to make those appointments when the vacancies come. And I'd just like to publicly say that I take this incredibly seriously. And I wanted to thank all 5 candidates who put their name in. And I think that all 5 of them would be great additions to the board, and I really appreciate people willing to step up and serve for just a 13-month term or 12-month term. And I'm real grateful for that. And as I've been thinking about this, I've been focused on the next 13 months, not the next 3 years, and thinking about who's best suited to come in with the big projects we have on the docket in the next several months, and who can kind of jump in, get off the ground running, or whatever the expression is. So that's all I wanted to say.
Anybody else?
Couldn't agree more with what Councilmember Hayes just
Yeah,
said. Thanks for.
I think we all have thought along that line.
Whenever you're ready, we'll come get it.
All right, Councilmember Doug Hay voted for Ryan Stone. Councilmember Archie Portillo voted for Ryan Stone. Councilmember Pam King voted for Ryan Stone. And Councilmember Alice Berry voted for Ryan Stone.
Okay, we need to make a motion here to accept the vote and appoint Ryan Stone as the member of the town council.
I'll move to appoint Ryan Stone filling an unexpired term ending on December 9th, 2024.
Got any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Ryan's the new member.
We'll get you sworn
next we got communication, town attorney, Craig.
Ron is here, so I guess technically we can swear in Ron. Would you like to do that? Go ahead and swear Ron in.
Can I just say one thing before we do that? I just want the public to know that all the candidates, that all the applicants were invited to be here tonight in case they were the one that was, ended up appointed. We didn't want it to look like we all knew the outcome of this before we did not. So I just wanted you all to be clear on that.
Repeat after me. I
I, Brian Stone,
do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith,
and the laws, give it to me one more time.
and the Constitution and
And
laws,
the Constitution and laws of the state of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
That I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
as council member of the town of Black Mountain, North Carolina.
as a council member for the town of Black Mountain, North Carolina. Thank you. I think I know it now.
I know. Here. Sign this real quick for me.
Good seeing you.
All right, congratulations. Now we move on for communication, town attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just point out a few things that came about from the General Assembly finally approving the budget. Much hand-wringing and still a lot of fires going on down there. As part of the budget process, there were a number of items that were included in that were approved, one of which, as you may have already heard, dealt with the preemption of municipal regulation of plastic container regulations. So apparently the North Carolina Retail Merchants Group was successful in getting that through. Also, there is a similar preemption dealing with the use of shopping carts. Find that kind of odd, but apparently General Assembly thinks it's something that should avoid local regulations. Shopping carts.
Do what with them?
I'm assuming say that a local government cannot tell a business you can or cannot have shopping carts. Now, there's a lot of course, you've noticed there's a lot of folks that take shopping carts and then use it for habitation or use it to carry things. That may have spawned local government's concerns, but anyway, the retail merchants want to have their flexibility with the use of shopping carts. So those just one of many things that fell into this budget that didn't get much public comment, or actually didn't public comment.
So, excuse me, so for the plastic bags, so what, at this point, it looks like what we were discussing last month would not be possible, is that right?
No.
What we discussed last month was to encourage, if you're saying we encourage Buncombe County to adopt, then that encouragement can happen, but it won't go anywhere.
Yes.
So to that extent, yes, it will fall on legal deaf ears. Now, the town, as an owner of its own facilities, and things can encourage itself to be environmentally proactive. You can encourage your town residents to be environmentally proactive. But in terms of a regulation of someone else, you're preempted.
So we still have ways to go about waste reduction as a town without regulating.
Best management practice,
business.
training and education, and be a good example. All right, in terms of other matters that came in through the budget, the state has an oversight group called the Joint Legislative Commission on Governmental Operations. This commission, which is appointed by the legislature, typically looks at state operations. They've expanded it to look at local operations. I know there's some expression of concern about how far this commission can get into looking at local government operations. Typically at the state level, they look at efficiency and effectiveness of programs at the state level. And so what they might do at the local level is a frontier that hasn't yet been traveled. So I know there's been some expressions of concern about what it all means. But there is this commission that now is expanded to local government. So we'll have to see how it comes with that. One last change I'll mention that was adopted as part of the budget process is public records law. It used to be that communications with attorneys of public bodies, that those items were privileged and protected from disclosure, but only for 3 years after the communication occurred, which made it an odd situation of someone then following up 3 years later to get at communications with your lawyers. Now it is permanent. They've eliminated that 3-year loophole. So, those are some items that came up through the budget approval process.
Josh, got anything?
I just got one thing, it's from former council member Christie. He wanted me to say a few words, so I'm going to for him. He says, please express my thanks to the members of the town council, the employees, and the many others in Black Mountain that have reached out with messages of support and prayers to Deidre and I. Sometimes it takes a crisis to remind us of what a wonderful and caring town that we live in. I am grateful. Thank you. And that's it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anything from the council?
Josh, would you mind, there were a couple of public hearings that were on the original agenda that got pulled.
Yeah.
Is that planning to, right now, are we looking at next month?
We are.
Okay.
We are looking at this one, yes. They wanted to wait until there was a full board, so they wanted to wait until another member was set, which is fine, I understand. And they're gonna have it, as far as I know, in November, they're gonna have it on the agenda. So,
At the regular meeting.
at the regular meeting, yes.
Okay. Anybody got anything else?
Just one short thing. I wanted to give a shout out to our representative, Eric Aker. He was instrumental in facilitating an allocation in this year's budget with the General Assembly of $50,000 for Black Mountain to be used for our feasibility study on 2 donated properties. And so I appreciate that he went to bat for us and got that allocation.
Anything else? Okay, if not, meeting adjourned.
Congratulations, Brandon.
Yeah.